I'm on a bench one day in front of my son's house. I put my phone on the bench and I'm like, just wait for my son to come home. And all of a sudden I hear, "Don't move, mother effer." And I open up my eyes and there's a gun right in my nose. And I'm surrounded by FBI agents. They rear me from the back. They lift me up. They handcuff me. They throw me in a van. They're screaming, "You murderer! You're going to get life in prison. You're a murdering scumbag," and blah, 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 blah. I'm working for my father-in-law in his tuxedo store, and I'm there one day, and two feds walk in, and Jerry Conrad walk in, and I take them in the back. I go, "What do you want?" They say, "Laura, you're in a lot of trouble." So I told them, "Well, who do you got, a crackhead?" I knew, I said, "What do you got, a crackhead telling you stuff?" When I was talking about him, I said, "What do you got, some crackhead telling you that I did things?" They go, "No, we got more than that." They told us, you're finished. You want to cooperate? I told them no, and they leave. I'm on a bench one day in front of my son's house. I put my phone on the bench and I'm like, just wait for my son to come home. And all of a sudden I hear, "Don't move, mother effer." And I open up my eyes and there's a gun right in my nose. And I'm surrounded by FBI agents. They rear me from the back. They lift me up. They handcuff me. They throw me in a van. They're screaming, "You murderer! You're going to get life in prison. You're a murdering scumbag," and blah, 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 blah. And it was like, they say when someone drowns, their whole life flashed in front of their face. That's how I felt. Like I'm in this van and I'm cuffed and my whole life flashed in front of my face, because now I know I'm pinched for murder. This is forever. Lady Loretta was having a feast.
The feast.
They were having a feast. I think it was the last year they had the feast because of you guys.
Oh yeah.
And it was very racial back then. I mean, yes. Unfortunately. Yeah. And I was there with Ronnie One Arm, because I knew Ronnie One Arm because he lived in Anthony. Anthony, the Carrazes, lived on top of his father's store. They all lived in the same building. So all the guys you looked up to when you were a kid, I knew them from I was born, because they were all with my father.
Right.
So what happened was...
You're trying to say you were privileged?
I was privileged, yeah. I was lucky me. Yeah. So I was there with him because I knew him through Anthony, and I was there with him, and there was a fight between you guys, the white guys, and the black guys. And I remember you running through the street of the festival, and Ronnie told me that. I said, "Who's that guy?" And he said, "Robert, you were fighting with a black guy at Lady Loretta's feast."
Yeah, we had a lot of fights there.
That's the last year they had the feast there.
Well, of course, you had Eastern Parkway that separated. The whites were on this side, the blacks were on that side, so we always used to crash.
And remember, my father had the club on top of the beer distributor, and that was my first illegal job.
Your brother-in-law is, his name was Frank, right?
Frank, yeah, geeky. Yeah. He was a bad guy. He was a very, very,
Bossy was his name.
He was a dangerous guy, murderer, armored truck robber.
What happened to him in the street life was deserved. In the street way of thinking, what happened to him bringing him there and all that. In the street way, that's just how it worked. That's just how it worked.
So what happened with that whole thing?
He's mobbed up, this kid, so he knows the rules. He started dating my sister. His friend, Peter Sicala, who was another sicko, told Frankie, "Listen, don't date this girl. Don't date Fatty Andy's daughter. Stay away from her." And he didn't listen, and he dated my daughter. Danny Marino, a captain in the Gambino firm, came to see me because he dated his niece. And he told me, "Tell your sister to stay away from this guy. He's no good." And my sister didn't listen. I went to my mother and my sister, I said, and they didn't listen. So now my sister goes with him. My sister, turns my sister on to heroin. They're sniffing heroin together and everything. And he's bad. He's got Uzis stashed in my mother's garage and flak jackets. And now I'm at this time, I'm messed up on drugs. I'm free basic coke with this guy. Well, I'm out of my mind. All my life was the next one, more coke. Now my father's in jail doing 40 years, so I'm like in a dark place. My sister marries him. I get clean. I go to treatment in 1988. While I'm in treatment, my sister is pregnant. She has a baby shower. The next morning, I call my wife up to find out how the shower went. And I get on the phone, and my wife tells me, that son of a bitch, last night he almost killed your mother. I go, who? Who are you talking? He goes, Frankie. I heard screaming and yelling because we live upstairs from my mother. I ran downstairs and he was choking your mother. He had her on the floor. He was choking her, and I jumped on him. I scratched his face. He threw me up against the wall. He ran out of the house. I was like, "What are you kidding me?" Right? So now I'm in treatment. I'm in Vermont in the dead of winter in treatment. So I get out, and my mother is terrified. Forget it. Don't do nothing. He'll kill you. He's crazy. So I go see Tony. Now I go see Tony Lee, who was my father's partner. He's a maid guy. I go see Tony and I tell him, Frankie beat my mother up. And he tells me, I know. So I looked at him, I go, you know? I said, well, what are we going to do? He goes, we're going to clip him. And now I'm raised in that life. Like, now here my sister's pregnant with this guy's baby. And he tells me we're going to clip him. And I say, all right. And I'm fine with it. So now in the mob, Hill knows, in the mob, you just can't kill people. You got to get permission because they call murder work. Like when we were in the street, if somebody would tell me, like, he's a good guy, he did work, I know he murdered somebody, or he's a good guy, I know he murdered somebody. So you got to get permission to commit a murder because murder brings heat, people get arrested. So you just can't randomly kill people or you would get killed. So now Tony says we're going to clip him, but we're going to do it the right way. So now I have to go visit my old man. So I go to visit my old man in the prison. He's in Virginia with Letty in Petersburg, Virginia. So I go to the prison and I tell my father, Frankie beat mommy up. The first words out of my father's mouth was, what does he think, I'm dead? He made it all about him. What does he think, I'm dead? I go, listen, evidently he really don't give a shit about you or anybody because he beat mommy up. So I tell him, I said, we want to clip him. But she said, so he gives it. Now this is the mob. Here I am, I'm a son visiting the father, and the father is giving me permission to commit a murder. That's the mob mentality. And we're having a conversation like we're eating over a cup of coffee. Oh yeah, we're gonna go kill this guy. All right, yeah. And he goes, okay. And he gives me permission to commit the murder. We send for Jeannie Gotti and we tell Jeannie what happened, that we want to kill Frankie. He goes to John, who's the boss now. John loved my mother. For some reason, John Gotti loved my mother. And I had a good relationship with John. No matter how flawed I was, he always looked out for me. And Jeannie comes back and says, my brother okayed it. Now it's okay. Now my sister's still pregnant. She didn't get birth yet. So this is how could I say, this is how wonderful we are. So we decide we're not going to kill them till after the baby's born, because we don't want my sister to have a miscarriage or anything. That's how sick we are. So now we wait till my sister has the baby, and then the day comes we're going to kill him. I pick him, I go by my sister's house, I pick him up, he comes in my car, he had shorts on and a t-shirt and no socks and shoes, so I know he has no weapons on him or nothing. Now, I gotta bring him there, and now I can't let this guy know what's going on because he's dangerous. He'll jump out of the car, whatever he's gonna do. So I'm talking, laughing, he kisses me hello, and we're in the car, and I drive to the club, and Mikey Gow, who was Tony's brother, is sitting outside. I pull up, and I'm calm, I'm calm. I pull up and Mikey's outside the club and we get out of the car. Mikey, like we kissed before, Mikey shakes his hand and kisses him hello. And we walk in the club. And as I walk in the club, he's in front of me. I hear Mikey, because they locked the door from the outside. When I heard the door lock, that's when I got nervous. And as we're walking back into the back of the club, Tony grabbed his arm and said, wait, I want to talk to you. And I kept walking. And when I got back to the bar, I gave Dominic, I said, Dominic, go. And Dominic grabbed the gun from under the counter and put it behind his back. And he went back there and he killed him and he shot him. In '72, when my father went to the music business with Jay and the Americans, they took me to Puerto Rico with Sonny, Tony Lee's cousin. Remember Sonny?
Yeah.
He was the first guy that they made, one of the first guys that Paul Castellano straightened out.
I like Sonny.
Me too. We went to Puerto Rico with Jay, and Jay had a big suite. And every night he used to sing opera before he went on stage to warm up his voice. And all the girls were there, all the groupies, and they would drink wine and smoke weed. And I went up there one night and drinking wine, smoking weed with the groupies, and Jay singing opera. And then the third night I went up there, I walked in and they were at a table just like this. And I walked up to the table and there was white powder on the table. It was 1972, I was 19. And I walked up there and this guy, Kenny Vance, he was one of the original Americans. I said, what's that? He goes, it's Coke. Do you want to try it? And I go, yeah, definitely. And he handed me a straw. And that was the end of me.
Violence was part of my life even as a young kid. Then when I started hanging out with you, it just grew even more.
Yeah, I was never in a gang, but so for me, I was born into it. You know, the year I was born was the same year my father got straightened out in '53. And he used to tell me that was the best year of my life. I got married and I became a father, and I used to go, yeah, look at me. Yeah. You couldn't open up a barber shop. So I was just raised. Then when I found out who he was and what he was capable of, I was like, oh man, I want to be that. When I started hearing stories about him, you know, about the murders and everything, that it was like, I ever tell you the story when he took me to remember the 5 o'clock in Canard, and remember the 5 o'clock lounge? So he takes me in there one night on a Friday night, and the place is packed. This is right before you started hanging out with me. The place was packed, and we walk in, it's a Friday night, and of course he knew the bartender and everything. We walk in, we get a drink, even though I'm 16 or 17, I'm drinking already, you know. Nobody's cool for me because I'm Fat Andy's son. So I order a drink, we're drinking, and people are, hey Andy, what's going on? And about an hour later, maybe a little longer, he says, look around. So I look around, he goes, you notice anything? I go, not really, what's what? He goes, you see how empty the place got? I said, yeah, there are a lot of people left. He goes, you know why they left? I go, why? He goes, because I'm here. I said, what are you talking? He goes, because they don't know if I'm here to hit somebody, kill somebody, abuse somebody, so they left. He goes, is that how you want to live? I started hanging out with Nikki, who at that time now is the acting boss of the Gambino family. And I start hanging out with Nikki again, and we're going to Florida. Now they know I'm hanging out with Nikki. The feds tell him, we want your brother-in-law and we want Nikki. And then they put him on us. And that's when Nikki made me go bring him back into the fold. And now Louis's got a wire on, they're running around with Louis. I get arrested on a state case for a big bookmaking case, book sports betting. It's legal now, I got an app on my phone. It's legal, but back then it wasn't illegal. It wasn't illegal because the government wanted to take over, but that's a show for another day. Yeah. So anyway, I get arrested on a big bookmaking case. I take a plea, I get 2 to 4. I'm in state prison, upstate New York, and I get indicted in Florida with him and Nikki and everybody because of Louis. I get indicted to Florida. They bring me back to Florida. The marshals come and get me. Now I'm in MCC in Miami, locked up, and he's on Rikers Island. And he's calling my mother up, telling my mother, I got nothing, I got no sneakers, I got no money. And my mother's telling me, Robert's on Rikers Island, nobody's visiting him, he wants to know what's going on, he has no money, no sneakers. I think no attorney. And my mother sent me $60, I think she told me, yeah, and a pair of sneakers. I said, oh, send him money and send him a pair of sneakers. So my mother sends him money and sends him sneakers because he's my friend still, even though he's cracked up, he's still my friend. He's on my case. I never in a million years thought he was going to cooperate. Now I call up the lead attorney on the case, this guy, Joseph Carrazza, who's Nikki's nephew, who we know since he's born. And I call him up and tell him, listen, Robert's on Rikers Island. He has nothing. Somebody needs to go up there and see him and let him know what's going on. He comes around and tells me, I'm not his lawyer. I said, what does that mean you're not his lawyer? We're friends, you know this guy all your life. What does that mean you're not his lawyer? Now I get upset with the lawyer. I go, what do you mean he's not your lawyer? So P.S., they got him on the burn. Now we're fighting the case. All of a sudden, I'm in my cell one night and there's an event that me and this guy, Ralphie the Fly, who was co-defendant is on above me in another cell, and we used to talk through the vent at night. I'd stand up on the toilet bowl, and we would talk through the vent. And I'm in my cell, and I hear him calling me, Anthony! And I hear him calling me, and I get up, and I go up to the vent, and he says, Robert went bad, Robert went bad. And I said, what? He said, Robert went bad. And I said, we're finished, right? And I didn't get mad at him. I was mad at them for not helping him. I mean, I became mad at him later on, but at that point in time, I was upset with them. Now we have attorney visits. Now he's cooperating. Now we're finished. Between the tapes and him cooperating, we're done. We have an attorney visit, and on the visit, it's me, Nikki, Lenny, we're all in the attorney room with the lawyers, with Jerry Shondell, all big mob attorneys, and I go in the visit and I tell them, are you happy now? Are you happy that this guy cooperated? Is everybody happy now that nobody wanted to help this guy? That he's on Rikers Island? My mother had to send the guy sneakers? Is everybody happy now that he's cooperating? And that was out, and then that was it.
So Roberts, wait a minute. So you I guess it seems like you felt like when you cooperated, you were stuck, stranded, nobody was helping you. And then it sounds like you weren't the first. Somebody was already being tapped, was already cooperating, was walking around with a wire, and you guys up.
See, all that, yes. If I wanted to justify it, but the point is this here. This is the point in that life. No matter what was going on, what was happening, you did your time, you faced the consequences, you didn't give nobody up.
They tell me, listen, you need to call the government because these people are going to throw you under the bus. Because now I'm the last person with them. I'm the last person allegedly to drop him off. Right. Everything points to me. I knew Peter Sakara cooperated, and I knew that statement I made to Peter Sakara, and I still was confused about you because I don't know what I told you, or if I didn't tell you, I didn't know you said at the time. I know now, but I didn't know what you said then. And then the lawyer tells me, you need to call the government. And I put the phone down. Not this lawyer. I could have ruined this lawyer's career. And I put the phone down, I hang up, I go to sleep that night. The next morning I wake up, I get Jerry's card out of the drawer, and I give the card to Valerie, and I say, when you get to work, call this number. She calls the number. About 2 or 3 hours later, my doorbell rings, and it's Jerry and another FBI agent. They walk in, they sit down, and the first words out of their mouth, look, did you murder your brother-in-law? And I said, yes. And they stopped the conversation, and Jerry took a piece of paper out of his pocket, and there was a list of 10 lawyers. So I look at the list and I see Michael Gold, who was Eugene Gold's son, the DA of Brooklyn, who tortured us, right? And he had an office in Pollock's. He worked with Pollock.
Okay.
Right? So I knew him from John Pollock's office. So I knew him. So I called him and I met him. He met me at a Long Island Railroad train station because he didn't want, because he was coming in from Manhattan. He lived in Long Island. And I met him on a train station and I told him what was going on. And he said, okay, he wanted $25,000, but he goes, but I know you have no money. So what we're going to do is, he says, after you cooperate and your family leaves New York, you own a townhouse, right? I go, yeah. He goes, well, I'll take my $25,000 out at the closing. So that was the deal I made with him, and he became my lawyer. He contacts me, and I met them the first time at the Waldorf Astoria. The first words out of their mouth, tell me about murders, tell me about dirty cops, dirty judges, and I was there all day, and that was the beginning of it. When I decided to cooperate, I made the feds, when they took me out of my house, I made them take me to my mother's house because I wanted to tell them what happened to give them closure, my sister and my mother. So the feds took me by my mother's house, and I told my sister what happened, and she flipped out. She went out of her mind. She started hitting me, and she flipped out, cursing, screaming at me, and she ran out. She ran away. She just ran away. And my mother was sitting at the kitchen table, and my mother just looked at me, and she went, I can't believe he made you do things like that.
She knew it was coming from her husband.
She said, I can't believe he made you do things like that. So, my niece, of course, my niece don't talk to me. When I got sentenced for the murder, my niece told the judge to give me life. She wanted, but he didn't, because
That's Frankie's
daughter that was born when he got disappeared, and she told the judge to give me life. I got clean in '88, and you came. I went into a 12-step program. In a 12-step program, it's about a higher power, but it's the God of your understanding. That's what's written in the literature.
Right.
So now, when I got clean and I started to develop a conscience, I started working steps. So when I started hitting the bottom, I started working steps. The steps led me to Graymore, which was a monastery in upstate New York that was run by priests that were in recovery, like crackhead priests and alcoholic priests that were clean, and they had a retreat for addicts. And at that retreat, that's when I got with Jesus. I met with a priest about guilt, and we talked about guilt, and he prayed over me, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. And in the second step, at that time, I was on the second step. It says, I came to believe in the power greater than myself, could restore me to sanity. And at that retreat, I felt that Jesus could restore me to sanity, but I wasn't ready, but I was still in the life. And then I went to jail, and then when I came out, I cooperated, but that was the beginning of my faith journey. The 12 steps were the beginning of me, because I needed a higher power.
With me, it was just different. With me, this is, first of all, it was my daughter's cry on the phone. I mean, it just, because there was so much when I was in Rikers Island in 97, I walked out of my daughter's life when she was a baby, you know? So I just had to keep getting high, because I couldn't deal with the guilt and the shame and all that. Yeah. And then I was getting a lot, even if I went to go see Nicky, he made sure that he would say something to me to know that I'm never gonna be there anymore. He would do, like one time, I'll just tell you, I went to kiss him hello, like we normally do. And he moved his face, he said, I don't know where your lips been. So there's certain things that happened to let me know that I wasn't gonna be fully accepted anymore. And I think it was because of the shame and guilt that I brought. He brought me around everywhere.
I know, I was there, I know all about it.
So now I'm in Rikers Island, and I get that call from my daughter, and it just breaks my heart. But the thing that was interesting for me is I felt completely hopeless. Nobody wanted to help me. I didn't get any, not even my own family, in a sense, thought I was better off in jail.